First, let's update you, shall we, with some coronavirus news and how it's affecting football in the world. Starting off with the positive news that it looks like the German government to meet on Wednesday and is expected to allow the Bundesliga season to resume on May the 15th. Things aren't, though, as clear in England. The PFA chief executive, now he's of course a representative of the players, Gordon Taylor, saying that the Premier League considering shorter matches, neutral stadiums and more substitutions. The EFL chairman, now he's in charge of the leagues below the Premier League, Rick Parry, saying failure to honour Premier League promotion and relegation will lead to very messy legal action. Okay, let's welcome, shall we, Ian Darke and Gab Marcotti into the show. Gab, I feel like every single day I go to you with another idea the Premier League are looking at, the latest being shortening the halves from 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, the other two, that Gordon Taylor, the head of the Players Union, the PFA, you were already familiar with, right? The 5 substitutions and playing a neutral venue, which actually isn't a Premier League idea. It comes from the police and law enforcement here in England, and which isn't really an idea. It's fact, because they said if you don't do this, we're not going ahead. But what you're seeing right now is how different this whole situation is being dealt with in England relative to, say, Germany or Spain. Now, in Germany and Spain, there is a face of the league. Javier Tebas in Spain, Christian Seifer in Germany. These guys have been out in public for the past 6 weeks. They've answered questions. Their debate's been very, very open. In England, for a number of different reasons, the Premier League has decided to take a different approach. They've had fewer meetings. They've had more sort of behind-the-scenes discussions. There is no face of the Premier League like Seifer or Tebas to come out and answer questions or to speak in public about what the plans are. And so the information that's come out, it's come out in drips and drabs. Some of it has been wrong. Some of it might have been early proposals that have since been abandoned. Like, remember back when they were going to lock them all up at St. George's Park? Some of this, I'm sure somebody maybe has brought up this 45-minute thing. Although I think it's also interesting to note that Gordon Taylor and the players haven't really been part of this discussion. They fell out badly with the Premier League. It's been, 3-4 weeks ago now, when they refused to take 30% across the board temporary pay cuts. And since then, they haven't really been involved. So again, this is information that's feeding back to them. It's a little bit like a game of telephone right now. A lot of rumor, but very little fact in terms of what the Premier League as a whole is actually plans on doing.
Ian, what do you make of this all?
Well, I think it's a mess, as Gab's just described. I think where we are now, I don't think this 45-minute or cutting the duration of the game has got a hope in hell of actually happening. They can't rip up the laws of football. So I think that is, frankly, a daft even suggestion to be talking about. The neutral grounds, I think that's pretty much set in stone. It has to be that way. They don't want. They don't think they can produce 20 biosecure stadiums. So I think where we are now is there's a big problem because the teams at the bottom of the table. And remember, if only 7 clubs don't agree to this, and the players say no, then it all falls down. Now the clubs at the bottom do not want to be relegated from a competition that is vastly different from the one that they started, and they regard neutral grounds as part of that vastly different landscape. The other problem, of course, is there's been talk of no relegation. The teams at the bottom, of course, would love that, but the TV companies wouldn't. They want a proper competition, not a lot of dead rubbers. So there's a lot to sort out. The players, I think there will be big meetings this coming week in the next few days where the medical protocols will be put to them and they will be asked to agree that it is safe enough for them to play. It can't be completely safe, of course, until there's a vaccine.
Gab, how have we seen, say, the clubs in Spain agree so easily, it seems, to what's been proposed and get on the same page, as opposed to what Ian is saying quite correctly? It just seems like it's impossible to get everyone to agree or close to agree to a plan in England.
I think part of the problem here is the Premier League is extremely preoccupied, certainly more so, I think, than in Germany and in Spain, with public opinion, with what the public thinks. There is a portion of the public here in England that, on principle, don't want football to come back. I mean, and then this constituency exists in different countries. It certainly exists in Italy and Spain as well. But I think to some degree, because all these debates haven't occurred out in the public sphere, so to speak, because the Premier League has said nothing, because the Players' Union haven't been part of the conversation, now you're dealing with these issues now rather than gaining some kind of understanding a month ago, when maybe you could have had some leverage one way or the other. You understand why the Football League are threatening legal action if their teams don't get promoted. You can also understand the point of Brighton. But you know what? You could have understood this a month ago, and you could have given yourself some time to go and work through that, work through different scenarios. Personally, I think in the end, and Simon Jordan, the former Crystal Palace owner, was one of the first to put this out there. The issue can be resolved. The issue can be resolved because a lot of clubs fundamentally care about money above all else. So you would have to go and you would have to reapportion the prize money in such a way that, if there is no relegation, you compensate the clubs that would have been promoted. And if there is relegation, then you increase the payments to the clubs that do get relegated. So, there are ways to go and work this out. And I think ultimately that may need that may need to be what has to happen. But there's no question that a lot of people have questioned the messaging and the approach that the Premier League has taken over these past 4 or 5 weeks.
As we talk now, Gab, gut instinct, how will it be resolved?
My gut instinct tends to change from day to day. I think it's good that they're finally talking about actual medical protocols. Again, medical protocols have been out there in the public domain in Spain, Italy, and Germany for 3-4 weeks now. This is one of the first things, and obviously it's going to change with the science, but this is one of the first things that you should put out there so that people can debate it and people can get comfortable with it one way or another. My instinct is that I think in the end they're going to work out some form of compensation, which can either mean more promotions, no relegations, but then you still have promotions from the Football League, or some sort of economic compensation to the teams that are slighted, whether it's Championship teams not being promoted or Premier League teams being relegated. But guess what, Dan? This is purely a hunch.
Yeah, this is it. Obviously, is a hunch. Ian, if they came to you and asked you how you would fix it, would you answer the phone? What would you say?
No, I'd pick up the phone, and if you want to cut through all the verbiage here about this, and there's a lot of it, I think they will sort it out. I think there's a big imperative financially to get this league completed, and I reckon that the league will start on June the 12th. Restart, that is.
Meanwhile, Gab, it's going to happen, isn't it? The Bundesliga is going to start next week. This is genuinely exciting news.
That's the indication. I mean, Reuters coming out and reporting that Angela Merkel will say yes tomorrow. Now, just for those who give you a peek behind the curtain, if a massive international wire service like Reuters comes out and says this, then it's because somebody in government has briefed them and told them, yeah, this is what Chancellor Merkel will say tomorrow. It's not like they've spoken to her or they've read her mind. So until it happens, I'm keeping the champagne on ice. But certainly it's a very, very positive mood. And I think it's something that's going to be very useful to other leagues as they try to see if they can come back, because, Germany in some ways can offer a bit of a blueprint or a roadmap of some of the hurdles, maybe some of them unexpected hurdles that you're going to have to deal with.
Imagine real life football to talk about. Gents, thank you very much. Of course, England a long way off that stage at the moment. And for more on what's going on in the Premier League and their plan to return, check out Mark Ogden's article over on the website. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.